Hi, this is Kushagra Sharma, and welcome to the 505 Circle, a platform which showcases inspirational stories and the journey of thought leaders and creators from different walks of life. In today's episode, we talk to one of the most followed growth hackers, international best-selling author, co-founder of the International Growth Hacking Day, Rohan Chaubey. So Rohan, welcome to the 505 Circle.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to actually have you here. I mean, it's such a pleasure. I mean, from a growth hacking perspective, I've always looked up to you. So I think it's a great opportunity to have you here. And to begin with, from a layman perspective, I think our audience would be interested in understanding what growth hacking is all about and who exactly is a growth hacker.
Sure. So we have this book called the Growth Hacking Book, and in the book we say that we don't subscribe to a definition of growth hacking because we truly want to give the power to the readers to define growth hacking in their own way. We don't want to hypnotize readers into thinking that they do not have the power to define growth hacking. So essentially there are no boundaries. But if I am asked, what a growth hacker does, I would say growth hackers operate at the intersection of product, marketing and technology to find and uncover strategies to acquire and retain users using data. So that would be my definition, but of course you don't need to subscribe to it.
Okay. Great. So Rohan, tell us something about your journey into becoming a growth hacker. What really inspired you into being an evangelist of growth hacking?
When I was 16, I was into this gaming site which was based on the Big Brother concept, and then there I discovered there is something called a blogging, or you can become a blogger. And back then I did not know what exactly blogging is, so I Google searched out of curiosity. And I found Google's blogger.com, which is essentially a blogging platform. And then I started writing programming tutorials for my classmates in school. And after blogging for 3 years, I got this invitation from the Huffington Post, which is a huge media publication in the US. There, I was writing there for a few months, and then a US-based company approached me asking if I would like to be content marketer, a PR manager, and inside salesperson for them.
Wow.
And that really opened doors for me to I never expected that I would ever get hired while writing anything online. And it was like a remote job. I was working for 4 hours per day, 5 days a week, and getting paid at least 3-4 times more than what you would get paid working full-time in India. And then the founder of the company called himself a growth hacker, and I never understood what exactly that is. So again, out of curiosity, I started Google searching what growth hacking is, and I found that it's actually a scientific process of growing any business metric. And so the inspiration was him, not that he was a mentor or he taught me anything. I just then got to know that there is something called as growth hacking and growth hackers, and that's when I started exploring. And after that I realized growth hacking is all about experimenting and finding ways. And I started so I was writing content for them, getting them on media publications and all that. And I started creating experiments for them weekly, and then I would execute them just to see, if they were successful or not. And that's when this experimentation mindset kicked in. And after that, I worked with them for 2 years. Then I started my own SaaS company. Then my company had some issues with Twitter, so we had to shut it down. And then this year, from Jan 2019, I was working as a growth hacker for a DC-based startup. And then in June, I left the job to work on my book called the Growth Hacking Book. And by this time, I had been running growth experiments for these multiple companies and SaaS startups, mostly in the DC, Bay Area, and New York. And that's when I thought that now I've collected enough information that the world would benefit from, and that's why we started writing this book. And eventually it did become a bestseller. That was the vision of me leaving the job and then writing and working on this book.
So Rohan, you spoke about your book, the growth hacking book. So would you like to actually throw in some more light on this as to what were the drivers which actually brought in the aspect of you getting inspired to write this book, and what can the audience take away from this book?
Since 2017, we started doing this masterminds, and my business partner Parul, she was in India back then, and every year we were meeting with our own community called the Invincible Winners, and we realized that all of us are in the same industry, but our skills are mutually exclusive. And so let's say if I'm extremely good at growth hacking, you may be good at content marketing, some other person would maybe good at designing graphics and all that. So because our skills were mutually exclusive, we thought that maybe we can compile a book together that covers everything that a person may want to know if they are running a digital enterprise. And that's when we thought, okay, why not do a book together, a collaborative book where we compile all of our experts in one book, and that's when we started planning the book in 2018, and in 2019 we finally published it.
Wow, fantastic. And just for the benefit of the audience, it's called the Growth Hacking Book, and it's the #1 international best-selling book. And you can actually find the link to this book in our description of the video. Rohan, tell us something about the International Growth Hacking Day.
Because our book, the Growth Hacking Book, was co-authored by 35 different co-authors from 9 different countries. And we noticed that in other countries they were doing their growth hacking days and conferences, but there was no conference that was international. So we decided, our authors from 9 different countries decided we collectively would call July 13th as the International Growth Hacking Day, which was also endorsed by Mr. Amitabh Kant, the CEO and Director of NITI Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India, Government of India, and a lot of other government officials were present at the launch. So it kind of truly became an official day for growth hackers, and also created a lot of media headlines.
So what usually happens on that given day? I mean, is there
Sure.
something that you can actually share with the audience?
The first thing that we plan to do going on is launching multiple editions of the book every year. So let's say this year on July 13 we launched the first edition of the Growth Hacking book. The next year we will do a second edition, and also we have this International Growth Hacking Conference where we invite the best growth hackers from the nation and everywhere around, and we discuss what would be the future of growth hacking, what would be the future of digital enterprises, and how we can truly propel the economy using growth hacking.
So Rohan, I was actually going through your book and I actually came across this very interesting Venn diagrammatic representation of a certain strategy that you want to convey to the audience. And there was this fascinating word called as a growth set. So what do you mean by that?
So I coined this term growth set. So I've been frequently asked, how do you become a growth hacker? And the simplest answer to that now is work on your growth set. So if I have to put growth set in a mathematical formula, I would say growth set equals skill set plus mindset and tool set. Skill set stands for what skills should a growth hacker have. Toolset is what methods and tools would growth hackers use, and mindset is installing the growth hacking mindset. And now we have a simple answer to how you become a growth hacker is by simply working on your growth set.
So was this inspired from somewhere?
Yes, so I'm a huge fan of Rohan Sharma, and he has this concept of mindset, heart set, and soul set. So I wanted to give this a technical spin for growth hackers. So I came up with this growth set.
Wow. So Rohan, let's now talk about the Indian startup ecosystem. So I mean, it's actually evolving quite a bit. The dynamics, the macroeconomics within India, it's actually shaping up really well. So I mean, what would you actually envision in terms of the Indian startup ecosystem, and what would be your recommendations or best practices to budding entrepreneurs?
From what I see right now is I feel everything is so distributed. Let's say if I was recently hired by this company called Kalyan Jewellers, which is like an online extension of Kalyan Jewellers, And what I noticed there was there were separate departments. Like they would have this marketing department, sales department, customer support, and all of that. And what was shocking to me is that the companies I was working with, the US-based companies that I was working with, and we were using this growth hacking framework, we never had such departments. We were very lean and mean. We adopted the lean startup approach. What we would have is a growth team where we will have technical people, marketers, and everyone in one team working together. And if I have to navigate across the Indian startups, let's say if you want to implement a change in the product, I would want to first propose it to the marketers that if we change this would happen. Then they would say to the different department, that is the tech or development team, that we may want to include this change. And this is a long process. If you are working in an enterprise that has an hierarchy or different segmented departments, it gets very difficult to implement and run experiments if this is the structure. What I now do is, the first thing I want the Indian startups to do is, if they are working with me, we create a growth team where everyone is in one team. There are no departments, and everyone in the team is responsible for growth. So let's say if you are working on the product, I want ideas from you. What would you implement at the product level so as to gain users or customers? If someone is in the marketing, of course, their job is to think of creative marketing strategies. And if someone is working at the customer support, their responsibility is what experience would you deliver so that we retain more users and customers. So in a growth team, everyone's responsibility is growth. And I think that's what we need to change in the Indian startups. Also, there was a report that says 90% of the Indian startups fail in the first 5 years. And that's where we feel the need of the growth hacking book, where we came up with a framework, which we feel if it is followed, we almost are guaranteeing that your run would be more than 5 years. We made this statement when at the launch of the book, and it got quoted in lots of media publications. I say that because it is proven. I've been doing this for other countries. I've been doing this for the US-based Bay Area startups already. I just would encourage Indian startups to really implement this. And lastly, I would want for companies to have an experimentation mindset. What I frequently get asked is, if we do this activity or experiment, what ROI do we expect out of that? I would want to that reframe it question and ask, how about running 100 different growth experiments, and then we will eventually find out what are the top 3 and top 5 experiments that are performing exceptionally well, and who knows that 1 or 2 experiments would be the key drivers of making your company a unicorn startup. So yeah, this is what my vision for Indian startup ecosystem is, and I truly want to see India being the $5 trillion economy, and I feel that it's not very far. Maybe 2030, by 2030 we would get to see that.
So is it then safe to say that every organization should maybe have a designation called as Chief Growth Officer?
Yeah, growth lead, growth officer, and then this Chief Growth Officer, like another fancy term we can come up with. But truly, it's not about the titles. It's more about everyone truly caring about growth. Your job, if we hire a developer, his job is not just to develop the products. His job is to find the growth levers in the product, so it fosters growth.
Nice. So Rohan, tell us something about content marketing. So in this digital era, as they say, content is the key. So how do you exactly make content viral?
What I've observed is, when I I was hired as a viral content strategist by a huge media publication, and they had this misconception that content marketing is all about you writing blogs and then expecting your marketers to distribute your blog post. I feel, it is. Absolutely everything that you do or produce on the internet, on different digital channels, is content, and that's what content marketing is. So let's say if you're sharing your Instagram stories or Instagram posts, that itself is content marketing.
Yeah.
So talking about virality, there are actually 2 stages of virality, and the first stage is the traditional definition of virality, what people think is if your content reaches millions of people, it would be considered viral. I do not agree on that, because I feel there are two stages of virality. The first stage is if your content reaches out of your current network. So let's take example of Instagram. Let's say you have 1,000 Instagram followers. If you are publishing something that is watched by your followers, and if your followers choose to pick one of your posts and share it with their own network, so your content is getting distributed out of your network, and that itself is virality. Now the second stage is, because of this network effect where you share something and then your network shares it further and their network shares it further, this makes content reach those million views. So million views is not just out of nowhere. It's because the content passed the first stage, that is getting out of your network. So that's why I feel there are two stages of virality. And secondly, if you want to go viral on any platform, I have these 4 proven steps. The first is identify the platform you want to go viral on. So if I have to ask you which platform would you like to go viral on, what would it be?
I think it would be Instagram. I think most of the people today actually are on Instagram, when compared to the other platforms. So yeah, Instagram.
Let's pick Instagram. So Instagram is the platform you want to be viral on. So the platform is identified, step 1 done. The step 2 is identify all the actions on the platform. So if I have to generally name the actions, it would be likes, comments, follow, direct messages. So these would be the 4 primary actions that you would want to perform. And not just identifying the actions, but identifying actions that would drive awareness. So let's say if I like one of your posts on Instagram, you get a notification that Rohan Chaubey liked your post. If I follow, you get a notification. If I direct message you, you get a notification. So any action that drives awareness about me to you is the action I want to keep performing.
Okay.
Right? So let's say if I'm into selling organic products, I would maybe search for a hashtag like, vegan or natural or something like that. And this is the audience that would care about my product. So I would perform actions like maybe liking their post, following them, and that's how I'm driving awareness. So the step 2 is done. The step 3 is you identify if there is a way to automate it, or if not, you perform those actions consistently. So let's say if I follow or like these people who are into vegan products, maybe 100 or 200 people per day, maybe 10% of it, 30% of it would want to reciprocate. So I remember we connected on Twitter first. Maybe I followed you, you followed me, and that was reciprocal. And that's where we cross-connected on other platforms as well. So what happens is, if you send a notification, that is, if you perform an action that generates awareness, it would be reciprocated by a certain percentage of people, and that's how you grow your audience. And lastly, the last step is to do it on scale. So this is not like you're performing 10 or 20 likes per day. Performing maximum possible actions on a platform to get maximum possible traction. So more awareness would drive more followers or more users or more revenue or whatsoever you want to say. So the first step always is identifying actions that will generate more awareness, and then awareness will eventually convert into something, either followers or revenues or whatever your end goal is.
So Rohan, how is your day planned? I mean, how do you make your day productive?
There are a few set of activities that I do every day, and it doesn't change. So the first is so not currently because of medical reasons, but I used to get up at 5 a.m. I had this group on Instagram, 5 a.m. Club. That's when Rohan Sharma launched his book. And the day when I started, I would number it, day 1, day 2, day 3, and I did it for, I guess, 45-50 days in summers. And eventually the group grew from almost just me to 40 people, I guess. And we all started getting up early in the morning and encouraging others. And the only criteria for being in the group was to message us and say that, oh, it's 5 a.m. I'm awake and I'm going for a walk or something. So then I would go for a walk. after that, the first thing I would want to do after work would be reading books. I love reading non-fiction business books. So that is my goal is to read at least 100 books per year.
Wow.
So that's what I'm pursuing, and I guess I'm already done with 30 or 45. I guess I'm not sure of the number. And apart from reading books, I like thinking and reflecting on just anything that is interesting to me. And if I'm not working, so either I'm in school or if I'm not working, I would do mantra meditation. So these are the only set of activities that I do in my life, and there's nothing more to it.
That's great. So Rohan, tell us about your future plans.
I truly want to share everything that I know about growth hacking with the Indian startup ecosystem. All that I've learned from the Silicon Valley startups while working with Silicon Valley startups, I want to share with the Indian ecosystem. And then I also want to teach kids in school and colleges what growth hacking is and how they can pursue this. Coming from an engineering school myself, what we are usually told is maybe you become a software engineer or something, go to some IT company. What I feel is with growth hacking, it covers everything. So you have to be technical, so that covers being a coder or programmer. Then you also have to think like a marketer. So and then also you have to be data driven. So I feel growth hacking is, because it's a mixture of psychology and then so much of technicalities. I feel it covers almost everything, and every engineer or just any marketer can actually transition into being a growth hacker if they work on their growth set. So evangelizing growth set and maybe somehow integrating this into the college or school curriculum might in the long run also benefit to drive the economy to that $5 trillion goal that we have. So that would be the only future goal, that I want to educate as many people as possible, and I would want to have other evangelists from India to help me do that. Maybe want to reach more than 1 million people this year or next year or whatever it is. The only goal is to not just be the one person reaching out to one to many people, but having multiple evangelists and talking about the same thing everywhere.
So Rohan, one final question before we leave. One success mantra that you would want the audience to take away from.
This is something that I personally follow, and I encourage our audience to do the same. Find people who are better than you so you can learn from them. Find people who are equal to you so you can feel challenged, and people not as good as you so you can teach them.
Well, Rohan, thank you so much for joining the 505 Circle. It was indeed a pleasure having you over, and you sharing the insights to the audience, which will actually keep them in great stead for their future aspirations. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.